Hello there, fellow readers. I'm going to review a really amazing book, and to do it justice, I mean, it's going to take just a little bit of time here. Um, the book I'm going to review, because I'm going in chronological order of the Malazan Books of the Fallen by Steven Erikson. Uh, Today is Midnight Tides by Steven Erikson. I love the cover, first of all. And so I'm going to kind of just really get into it because, you know, that's the only way to really cover this. There's so much terrain to have to go over. And Erikson has just created a completely amazing world. And like I said before, it was originally going to be a game kind of like Dungeons and Dragons, but then they decided to go ahead and make a 10-book series on it. And let me tell you something. You would think that that means that it would lose any substance at all and that it would be kind of a droning read or something. No. Not only is the world building by Steven Erikson second to none, it does not skimp on the actual writing style. It's amazing. So many, so many metaphors and flowing sentences and poetic verse are put into this novel with it elicits so much imagery and amazing storytelling, as well as an outstanding effort of building an entirely world from nothing. First of all, well, let's get right down to it. I mean, the book opens up in the middle of a battlefield, and we first get a look at the Soletaken from the Malazan Books of the Fallen series. And Soletaken are basically kind of like shapeshifters, wherein, in this case, they can shapeshift into dragons. Okay, so you have this dragon flying across the battlefield, right? And he's supposed to represent the Tiste Edur. Okay, and his name's Scavendari Bloodeye. So he, he lands, and then his brother over here, Jota's Ruin, is he's albino. Okay, and he's also a Soletaken dragon. Well, okay, they've been in this big war, trying to unite all these things, and so the two brothers meet and they're talking about things. They're talking about losses and, how many did you suffer here and how many did you do that here and all that stuff. Well, and then finally, all of a sudden, boom, Scavendari turns on his brother, man, and, wounds him and then takes him to this prison. There's another concept in this city of flying city-states that are used in battle here that was amazing. But anyways, so that is in the just the prologue, okay? And so the ancestors of these two people, obviously, years and years and years and years and years past, now come to the forefront. And obviously, as time goes on, they've gotten the story wrong. Okay, so the ancestors of the Tiste Andii, which are the ancestors of that albino brother, are called the Lethareii. The kingdom of Letharis, and it's an expansionist kind of an empire type of a kingdom that's going about and taking over peoples like the Narek and different things, and then the Tiste Edur are more like a kind of like Viking tribes. They've been all kind of scattered into all these tribes, you see, and then all of a sudden we have this Warlock King. There's always got to be a Warlock King, man. And some way to go get a sword, or it ain't a fantasy novel. Well, anyways, this Han and Masag guy has become the Warlock King, and all these different tribes of the Tiste Edur, he has somehow or another, through some type of sorcery, convinced the chieftains of these tribes to give them their heirs, and he has formed what is the Krishna, which are these sorcerer dudes that are and whenever their chieftain father passes away, well then of course these guys are going to be over the tribe. So you got this Warlock King guy coming on here, and and they have a very, very detailed, significant burial ritual for warriors and stuff there's the blooded and the unblooded warriors, okay? And so, I mean, there's very different things that go into the forefront here. When a warrior dies that's blooded, which is, obviously he's drew blood with his sword, and then, of course, the unblooded are somewhat different. And inside of this Tiste Edur camp, there are Lethareii slaves. And so we have that situation going on. But, okay, so here's where we go. This series, like I said, is so complex. It's about 960 pages, and it's with about 4 separate books in one. Okay, so we need to get right down into it. Okay, on this realm, we need to talk about the Singar brothers. Okay, awesome storytelling, obviously. We have Fear... Fear, Troll, and Ralad Singar. And obviously there's also Benadas. So there's 4 Singar brothers, okay? Fear, Troll, Ralad, the youngest, and then Benadas. So now Benadas is kind of the outdoorsy types, kind of does some sorcery here, but he's really not the, Fear is the eldest and the heir apparent to the house of Singar. And then obviously Troll is the guy that's, kind of intermittently here. What am I going to do? I don't really know what's going on. And their characters all come to the forefront. And obviously Ralad is a young unblooded warrior. And so he's young and he's ready for action. And you've got that situation going on there and the dynamics of it going on. That's just amazing. Like I said, there's several story arcs to this book that are just going to make it amazing. It's a standalone novel, by and large. Now, obviously, okay, Fear has a betrothed by the name of Mayin. Okay, now, the way this works is sometimes you can be betrothed for maybe 10 years or so. Okay, so, I mean, she's been betrothed to him, but Ralad kind of has the hots for her. And there's kind of some, some sexual tension going on between that thing going on. And then Troll is kind of like, hey, oh, no, you don't. And so you've got this going on. And Troll seems to be the kind of a sensible one going on. But, like I said, the amazing amount of storytelling goes into these characters. And as they go on, you'll find out that one of the Lethareii slaves is Edinus. Udinas, I guess is how you could say it. And he is kind of like the dresser of the bodies once they die, but he's also a slave. And so he's also kind of got the hots for this other Lethareii slave that's called the Feather Witch, who we find out later on has a very old ancient name. To be called the Feather Witch. But anyway, she is kind of like a mage, where she has the ability to see into the past and cast these tiles, which is a very big proponent of the series, as the tiles are cast for the unnamed hold or the Ezoth hold. And so she's kind of like a seer type figure. Well, Idinas has kind of the hots for her, but she's kind of up on the tier a little bit, and so he's really not really in the game on that situation. Okay, so now what we've got that situation going on, what's happened is the Lethareii and the Tiste Edur have this supposed treaty that's going on. Okay, well, obviously the Lethareii, whether they meant to or not, slaughtered some seals to kind of start this whole thing, okay? And so that's kind of got some people up. So there's this big meeting fixing to come together that's talked about throughout the whole series about kind of a come to Jesus meeting. Hey, what are you guys doing? You're not supposed to be doing there. Well, did you do this to do this? And was it the actual king of Lethareii who is Esgara Descanar, or is it his queen Janelle that's kind of instigating this, and her young kind of eager son, the Prince Qualos Descanar, or is it them, or does the king try to do it, and which is interesting, and what's going on with that, and obviously, and Lethareii in itself is something that's very big. Lethareii is a place that's okay. You've got the king, and then there's the king. King has his own consort, right? Okay. Well, the queen has her own consort. You know, so that's kind of the thing going on here. And Turu, let's see, Turu Ball. I think one of them kind of plays an integral part in the series. In there. Later on, but you know, you have to keep track of all this stuff. Well, then, anyways, that's going on. There's some dissension going on there, and then, of course, the other brothers in this series are the Bedok Brothers. Okay, you have Bedok, who was also kind of led by the Lethareii to get some of these other people and subjugated races that are now subjugated. He thought he was going there to help them, and it turns out, well, his government, you know, Descanar dude, he winds up, you know, desiccating them, and so they have several crushed civilizations as this Lethareii Empire goes on. So he feels like, man, you know, he's got to get, you know, he's got that on his conscience, you know. So that's Bedok, okay, and then you have Brizz, which has become the king's champion, okay, in Lethareii. He's not really good on the whole smarts game and the who's going here and what's moving here and who am I supposed to be for, but he plays a central figure, and he's used by the Edur, you know, the seer, which is Kieran Quan, to go into these places, and he's figured out that somebody has leased one of these unnamed gods, and he's not giving them a name, so they've got to figure out what's going on there, and that might be the power behind Hassan Masag over here in the Tiste Edur, and why all of a sudden he's doing some good is because maybe he's got one of these unnamed fallen elder gods, the Crippled God, in his favor, and can't get released. So we have that going on. Also, like I said, it's a hard series, you know. But you have you have Brizz Bedok, and then the last brother Tihal Bedok, which is I guess one of my favorite characters in the series. Obviously, he's kind of the smarts of the whole operation. He takes after his mother. He kind of he instigates what would be kind of like a stock market crash in Lethareii, okay, but then he's hid all his money, so nobody knows that he has anything, and so he's kind of smart, and he's laid low for a long time. Well, he's getting back into the business here, and he's going to also try and do something against the Lethareii government, you know, and because he's got this trio of ladies, this Hujin, Shad, and Rasar, they come to visit him, and he employs them, and so he's coming back out of retirement to kind of wheel and deal, and he's kind of a funny character, you know. He's really hilarious, and that whole story arc is amazing. How he, you know, starts a Bugs construction company and slowly goes around because, you know, the key what's happening is there's going to be another conjecture, and written in the prophecies 7,000 years ago was the emperor. Well, the king Descanar thinks that means that he's going to be the next emperor. So you see how that's playing into this whole thing, and so they're making this huge domicile thing, which is supposed to be the new home for his throne and expanding empire, because he's going to be the new empire once he ascends. You see how complex it is, and so they're working together that, and Tihal's kind of instigating that going on there, trying to you know, orchestrate some things. But you also have some other interesting characters in that little whole deal. I'll tell you, Sher Khalal, who is supposed to be dead, they pretty her up so that she can, you know, have some action again, because that's the one thing, she's been dead for a while, and apparently she died during one of these drowning things where they make criminals go down into these drowning things, and they place bets on, you know, how much weight is placed on them due to what crime they committed, and they gather around at the drownings to place bets on if these people will come back up and things. Well, apparently she died, but there was a curse put on her, so she has to live on as the undead, and so you know how that goes. But she is hilarious. And then, of course, we met one of my favorite characters of the whole series is LuPone, who is he's a criminal, but he also has 4 lungs, so he's kind of like, I guess, I don't know, maybe like not a Vulcan, but you know, he's like a Klingon, basically. He's got 4 things, so he could walk underneath the water, and obviously he wins the bet and stuff. And so, but the one thing is he's very heavily endowed, and so all these ladies, Rasar and all them, and especially Shirk, well, you know, they got, like I said, that's one of the most hilarious things about the book. And so anyways, she's a thief, and so she has to break into Kieran Ebrik's house, who is, you know, been pardoned by the king because he saved the king's life, right? So he could basically do whatever he wants. Well, she's hired by Tahal Bedok to go in and steal some things, you know, and to kind of cripple his financial situation. But anyways, it's hilarious how they've done it. And like I said, I know I'm not going to do it justice, but and obviously, there's a sword that's forged, withal by the sword maker, and the Crippled God makes him make this sword, you know, centuries ago, obviously, and so the Sengar brothers are sent by the Warlock King to go get that sword. Okay, so we find out that this sword is not just a sword. They run into a little bit more Soletaken. But anyways, the king told him specifically, don't touch the sword with your hands, it was for me. Well, obviously, Ralad being a young dude, well, he touches it, and that leads to another big occurrence that happens in the last part of the book. But, you know, what is this fantasy novel without going in search of a sword? But basically, like I said, this book could stand alone by itself as a fantastically written epic fantasy novel. Even if it was apart from the other Malazan Books of the Fallen, but I highly recommend that you go out and buy this book, Midnight Tides by Steven Erikson. It is one of the most amazing reads that you'll have, that you'll find out there, and I hope it brings to you the enjoyment that it did to me. From my bookshelf to yours, happy reading, guys.